Hit the button.
Good evening on this Sunday night. Welcome to Spurs Diehards TTID, Tottenham Till I Die. Another Groundhog Day. I've hosted too many Groundhog Days. The day that the Newcastle won a trophy for the first time in 70-something years. Tottenham lose their 165th game in succession. It's really not a great night, but we'll do what we can. We'll say a few of you in the chat already. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of comments as well. But let me first of all introduce the panel. An old friend of mine, rock star extraordinaire, occasional football commentator, Brad Matthews. Good evening, Brad.
Hi Ian, hi Adrian, hi Kev, hello everybody in the chat. Yeah, I'm just well, it's unusual for me to be sort of on one of these shows on a Sunday night. So, but yeah, so hopefully it'll go well, and hopefully I'll talk some sort of sense.
Yeah, well, you maybe talk more sense than a manager, but that's another story. Kevin Clark, whose main claim to fame is being the father of zookeeper Tom. Good evening, and apart from that, and being an extremely good right back when I was left back in the Eversley football team of 1971, probably the last time Spurs won a trophy. Good evening, Kevin.
It was the League Cup as well, and
there.
Evening, yes. Yeah, I can also talk about Lando Norris winning the Grand Prix if you want. But,
yeah, we can talk about that. We can talk about the final round of the TPC. I don't know. We can talk about the American eggs crisis, but unfortunately, I have to talk about football. Adrian, good evening, Adrian.
Hi, guys. I don't know if I'm feeling fine. I don't know if other Spurs fans feel about how they feel about the result as such, because me personally, I'd given up in the league anyway, so I'm not worried about the extra positions for a few extra quid for the club.
Yeah,
it's all Europa League for me. So,
well,
yeah, no doubt we'll get into it, and fans
we will. And not only that, we are going to talk about whether by the time we play our next Europa Cup tie, someone else should be in charge. I think that's a question now that I'm sure that every Spurs supporter, and I'm sure the board of directors are considering now. There's a lot of you in the chat, 18, which is quite high for this early in the show.
And we've got, let me look on XCOM, and we've got 10 on Twitter watching us XCOM.
Oh, good stuff. Look, put your comments so we know you're there, but in the chat. But Blaine, that's you, I think.
Yes, Blaine. Right,
it's numb now. I genuinely will be contemplating even bothering to watch Chelsea up next. I'm saddened to see my club of 25 years plus.
I get it.
It's embarrassing. That's you, Adrian. Daniel, Joe 90. I'm officially done. I don't care anymore. Get this guy gone during the international break and get another manager in before Frankfurt. Daniel, we will discuss that. That's me. I'm done too. We can talk about the way ahead in the show. Sorry, I've just gone and pressed the wrong button as I want to do. There's some new people there. Sorry, David Clark. Yeah, evening, David. Another defeat for Leicester. What can I say? Talk a ball, Colin. Good evening, Colin.
Hi, Colin.
Good evening, Graham.
Graham.
More of the same. A few of you saying hello to each other. I won't sort of go through all of that. But if you are in the chat, please come on and say hello. Kev, I'm going to start with you with the starting lineup for a reason, and that's when you saw the line. I saw the comments you put on the chat. No creativity. So talk me through that team and your thoughts as to why you thought no creativity.
No, I don't think I put no creativity. I think my son might have put no creativity. I was still trying to get a stream, I think, at the time it came up. But yes, I mean, before the previous game when they had Bentancur, Basuma, and Sarr, I didn't like the midfield. This is a little bit better because it had Gray in, but it's still having Basuma in starting is terrible. And my thoughts on Bentancur haven't changed from what they were last week.
Sorry, Kev, can I just stop you? Sorry, I don't like to do this. Someone's saying they've got an echo. I'm not hearing an echo.
No, I'm not hearing an echo.
Anybody got has anybody got the broadcast on simultaneously with this? I'm hearing something in the background. I'm not hearing an echo.
I just muted myself and I can still hear it. So
no.
Okay.
Sorry, Kev. Carry on. None of us are getting it blown. So anyway, go on. Carry on.
I was just saying, Bentancur, he played better than perhaps he did the last time I moaned about him. But yeah, it was. I suppose it was an inevitable lineup. Lots of changes from AZ, sort of going back to the Bournemouth game almost. So yeah, I was, perhaps surprised to see Udogie playing because he hasn't been playing very well. But yeah, they need some minutes. Some of these guys who are coming back from injuries, don't
they? Brad, thoughts on the team? I'll put it back.
Well, we've been going on for many years that we need a squad, and that you need a squad of 22, 23, 24 players that are interchangeable, that are all as good as each other, which, to be fair, we've only seen from teams like Man City, Liverpool, maybe. So yeah, I think we've got a reasonably good squad. It's not a great squad. It's not a title-winning squad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a squad of decent players. And I think he's just basically exercising that right. They all played on Thursday night. We're now playing on the Sunday. And he really wants them to all be fit going into the Europa League. So if he plays the same team that we played on Thursday night and someone gets injured, then everyone's going to be moaning about it. But he didn't do that. He put a team out there, 7 changes, give them game time. So when we do start playing in the Europa League, we've got a squad of players that are all having game time. And I think that's the reason he did it. And we've been going on for years about this, having a decent squad. And now when we're getting there, everyone starts moaning about it, including the people that have been saying, I'm not really worried about the league now. And then suddenly, we lose a game and it's like, oh, it was Angie's fault. He put this squad out, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, so I understand why he made the changes. The Basuma situation, I've just lost it totally with Basuma. I would sell him at the end of the season, without a doubt. But the team that went out today, he rested players, and that's what we've been trying to do all season. He's been moaning all season, or we've been moaning all season about, we're playing the same first 11 in 3 days, and then suddenly when we get the chance to not play the same first 11 in 3 days, everyone moans about it. So I don't know. It's becoming the social media is becoming a bit of white noise to me at the moment. It's just a noise.
Damned if he rotates, damned if he doesn't. Adrian?
Yeah. I mean, looks like Gray's come in, what we all wanted, but it's like anything, you're expecting it to come in and everything to work. So with Gray and the underperforming Basuma, and Bentancur hasn't performed since the European game and that away game at Brentford when he was very good, right? And the last couple of outings, he's not been good at all. And when you combine that with Basuma, or I agree with Pat Brad, he's got to go, then again, I've said all along about our midfield three, haven't I? We haven't had a successful, consistent blend of midfield three. Not that the threes that are picked can't play better if they're playing regularly together, but our midfield's a link between our defence and attack, and when it doesn't perform, we don't perform. It's that simple.
Can I just make the point here, what David Clark's brought up here? One of our best midfielders has been Bergvall. I think everyone will probably agree on that. Mm-hmm. We brought him on in the second half today and Sonny because we weren't playing well. So, I mean, ideally, we wouldn't have seen Bergvall today because we've been playing good enough to not have to bring him on. But if we'd have played him today from the start, and in the first 20 minutes he gets hacked down and is injured and misses the next 2 or 3 months, everyone starts moaning. So, this sort of thing, we only have 7 now, why bother resting them? That's the reason. We're not taking, the Europa League is the one chance we've got of having a decent season. So why risk players in a league that we're not going to get relegated? We're probably not going to get a European, so we're still about 5 or 6 points of the team that are above us. So we're really going to be where we are, at the end of the season. So everyone's going, why rest these players? Well, that's the reason we rest these players, because if Bergvall goes on and gets brought down and gets an injury for 2 or 3 months, everyone starts moaning about it. Why did you play him? So I'm just getting really people, and I'm not saying David Clark's this sort of person, but people seem to have this thing about they'll come up with something just to suit their agenda, their anti-Ange agenda. And I just think that you can criticise Ange, sure you can. I haven't got a problem with that. But I've seen people on social media many, many times calling him a fat Aussie C word. That's disgraceful. That is absolutely disgraceful. And I'm just getting so fed up of it. I won't swear on this channel, but I'm getting so fed up of this anti-Ange stuff. Yeah, criticise him by all means. But to say, he's a fat Aussie, whatever, or to say he's got, he's a fraud, he's got no idea what he's doing. He's been in management for 26 years, So I'm just getting a bit angry about it. Sorry, I've been ranting a bit there.
No, I mean, Adrian, no, please. I was going to ask you.
No, I was going to ask you to bring up Blaine's comment because I think it's a valid comment that he brought up. The one where he said, which is what I'd agree with, it's Spurs TV. Where is he? The Blaine's comment.
Which one do you want?
Right.
Well, you've got the edit buttons.
Oh, right. Okay, here. I mean, Brad, I agree with you. We had a match in 3 or 4 days, but we have 19 days now until the next family makes 7 changes. You're going to just not care and rest blood some youth.
No, but I get that point. I get that point that we've got a lot of time to recover, but I still stand by my point. If he plays some of his best players from Thursday night that we need in the Europa League and they get injured, then we have a problem. So why, even if we have got 2 weeks to rest them, not play them, it's
Brad, it's like you can't if you can't say, what if I go out in my car and I crash my car? I mean, with no games, I mean, I understand what people are saying in the chat. Forget the international games. We haven't got a game now for, is it a league game 19 days, someone say? Can't be as much as 9. Is it 19 days? Can't be. Can it?
Well, there's the international break, and then there's
I mean, to me, the opportunity that was missed was he's going to play Gray in midfield for the first time. To me, the future of the midfield is Gray and Bergvall, and maybe Maddison. So why not start the 3 of them? See how it goes, because that's a proper midfield. To me, that's a proper midfield with dynamism, ball-winning ability, passing ability, and he plays Bissouma, Bentancur, and who else played in midfield?
Gray.
And Gray.
Gray.
And even Gray wasn't outstanding, but to me, it was a complete opportunity wasted. That's what annoyed me.
I think we can agree that Gray playing in midfield was a good decision, because that's what we've been asking for the whole season. But I just sort of he needs all right. Take the injury question out of it. he still needs players that have got game time to be playing game time, and by the time we start playing the Europa League. So making 7 changes, I understand that why he did that. And let's face it, if we'd have scored today, when we should have done, and if we would have won the game, no one would be moaning. Because we conceded the goal like we've been doing all season when we've been actually in the game, people are moaning. And it's just one of these, it's just no pleasing some people. It's that they have to say whatever happened.
While you were talking, I've highlighted, therein is the issue. I'm sorry, well, he's a fraud, no top-level manager experience. His face till he came to the Premier League, exposed in this country to top-level league football.
Yeah, but
sorry. That means, why is he not a fraud? And then, Ange will bring success to us. We need to be patient and let him see it through. I would give him the whole of next season and then judge him. So therein, we talk about social media. There are 2 opinions there that couldn't be further apart, Brad.
Well, the thing about being a fraud, the first comment, I've always said this season, look, I'm not Angie and I'm not Ange out. I'm really much 50-50 on this. I've always said that he's had a lot of success in management, but maybe the Premier League, where you've got a lot more decent teams in there, maybe the Premier League is one step too much for his system of football. So to say he's a fraud is absolute garbage. Yes, you can say, okay, his system he uses is maybe not good enough for the Premier League because there are more than enough decent teams in there to exploit it and get the wins. For us to lose. Yeah. So to just call him a fraud is just absolute garbage. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Kev, can I bring you in for no other reason? Well, the most I want to hear what you have to say, but more importantly, I know you've checked in on a different device. Thanks for that message. And let's see if the echo's gone, because I'm not hearing it, but obviously Blaine was. So, do you want to just talk fraud or not?
Well, yeah. I'm much in Brad's sort of camp on this one. I am sort of 50-50. I've always been willing to give him a chance. It does surprise you sometimes, frustrate with some of the decisions he makes in starting 11s and then, waiting too long for subs. But he's been doing subs early. He's been doing subs at half time in the last 2 league games, the same substitutions as it happened, which begs the question for me, why does he start with the team that he's starting with sometimes? Bergvall, he's off to Sweden, isn't he? I think he'll be playing probably a couple of games over the next 2 weeks anyway. So hopefully he doesn't get injured in that one. So it's just and as we'd always say, you get rid of him now. Who are you going to bring in? You get rid of him now. Who are you going to bring in the summer? Especially if we're not in Europe.
I'm going to come on to that, Kev. Just lost my train of thought, Adrian. Let me move on to something else, because I thought this was really interesting, and particularly the comments after the game, Adrian. Let me bring on you. So there's not really anything to talk about the first half. No goals, barely a shot. It was actually, I thought, people saying it was an all right game. I thought it was dreadful first half, but there you go. But look, at half time, he brings on Bergvall for Bissouma and Son for Johnson. And I just thought, and he made some comments after the game against Bissouma about him not really competing and what have you. To me, whether Ange is here or not next season, that to me was an indication, Adrian, that he doesn't see Bissouma or Johnson as being part of his plans.
I think Johnson is definitely, Bissouma isn't. I always look when I watch any league game. When you got a fit squad, look at the bench. Because you get 20 players for a match day, don't you? You get 11 on the 11 on the pitch, 9 on the bench, 12. It's a Europa League like game, which I think will come to the Premier League the way the game's going and the pressure put on players. And I always look at the bench, especially over a period of games, because that gives you an insight into the manager's mind, whoever the manager is. And even though we've had a crap season, I mean, Basuma spent a lot of time recently on the bench. He's definitely not in the plans, and I think he knows he's going. And like, if he wants to be in a shop window, he should put in a performance. He seems to have given up by, by all accounts. He hasn't put in a performance any time he's come on recently, even as a sub, which is shocking. I wouldn't play him. I'd rather bring a youngster on. I'd rather bring more on instead. I mean, more can play in midfield, but obviously we see him more on the wing and all that. And he scored for the under-21s in a 4-0 win, the first goal against Blackburn Friday. I watched the game. I'd rather play one of them kids than Basuma. I really would. And I'd rather use these remaining games not to flood the team with it, but to give one or two youngsters. You bring one in at a time and give them a game. Basuma to me is gone. Johnson, well, I actually warmed to him this season. He's got 14 goals and 3 assists. You cannot ignore that. I don't care who it's against. You cannot ignore that strike rate. A good strike rate for wide players was always 1 in 4. He smashed it. He only scored 5 goals last season. If he's not scoring, fans are questioning his work rate. But when I watch the games, and Brad would have seen it at the games, even at the last game he watched when we beat Alkmaar, where was Johnson and Sonny? They were hugging the touchlines. They weren't coming back. All right, Sonny had a good game, better game, got a bit more involved. But they're obviously told to stay out there and hug the touchline and keep the opposition defenders occupied. So I get that. But then there's a question of footballers' IQ. At times, you have to do a Harry Kane, think, things aren't going well. I better get back and help out. But he's obviously told to stay there. I mean, like out there on the wing. So when he doesn't score, but he's shown this season that he's a very good finisher. He's not a tactic merchant, as some fans would have it. Okay. So I don't know. I mean, like, I've warmed to him. We'll see. I mean, like, I still think he's got a future because you're talking of a 25-man squad, and that'll include impact subs as well. If you can't prove yourself as a first 16, 17, 18 players, which you need for your first team, not just the first 11, which people seem to stick rigidly to, fans. You have to realise, well, even if you pick your best 11, you can't expect them to play 38 games. It's not going to happen. So,
let me say hello to a couple of people in the chat, Adrian, if that's okay.
Yes, fine.
Nita, good evening. I know one of our regulars. There was 53 of you at the moment in the chat. There's a few of you not said hi, so please come on and say hi so we know who you are. But regardless of that, please hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow enormously. But it's wonderful to see so many of you on. I just wish we were having a celebration tonight. Brad, let me bring you back in then on the both the substitutions at half time, bringing Johnson and Basuma off, and his comments. I don't know if you saw them post game about Basuma.
Yeah, I did. Look, whether Ange should be making these comments or not, I think we all probably agree with what he said of Basuma. Basuma's a really strange player. He came on against AZ on Thursday, and I said to the guy I sit next to, I said, "Oh no, don't bring him on!" And yet he made an absolutely brilliant block when AZ had a chance of scoring. Cario saved it, pushed it out, and the guy came in, and he just made an absolutely amazing effort to block that shot and keep us. So it was like, wow, I've had a go at him, and yet he's gone and done that. And that's the frustrating thing about him, is that he could be so good, but he's just so unreliable. As far as Johnson's concerned, yeah, I agree with Adrian. You can't ignore the fact he's scored goals, but I just expect a bit more from him. He's just underwhelming at the moment. And I was on the show on Tuesday, and the young lad Jacob was saying that he never played. When he plays for Wales, he's constantly taking players on and doing all the stuff that we want him to do, but doesn't seem to do it for Tottenham. So, yeah, so I've got no problems with the substitution at half time. It was an awful first half. The game itself was pretty dull in the first half. Fulham didn't really create a lot. In fact, the only real chance they had was because Ben Davies miskicked it and gave them a chance. But, they didn't really create a lot. But yeah, I think, and again, people will moan early on in the season saying, "Oh, he doesn't make the changes early enough." And well, now he does. So yeah, it's I with John, as far as Johnson's concerned, Basuma, I agree with Adrian. Basuma's gone; he'll go. As far as I always look at your first 11, I think, is this the first 11 that, or what's our best first 11? Are the players in that first 11 going to take us to the title? And I don't think they are. So if you've got a best first 11 with someone like Johnson in, I don't think a team at the moment with Johnson in this first 11 will take us to the title. Because I don't think at the moment he's performing well enough. But I'm not writing him off totally, because I think there is definitely a player there, whether it's a confidence thing, whether it's a hamstring injury he had, I don't know. But he obviously plays well for Wales. He scores goals for Tottenham. So there's definitely a player there. So I think he's in Angie's plans. But I think Basuma will be gone in the summer.
Yeah. Kev, I'll bring you in briefly on that, and I want to ask you something else. I mean, are you of the opinion Basuma's now had his chance and hasn't taken it, and it's time to go?
Yeah, I mean, I saw someone on Twitter saying, it's Angie's fault that Basuma's so bad because, he was good under Potter. And then I'm thinking, well, no, he was shit under Conte as well. It's a ridiculous comment. Basuma's one of these who charges around sometimes, gets himself booked. We seem to have a few who do that. And then sort of fades out of the game. But he just lets the game pass him by. He wasn't running back. He wasn't, he was I only saw half of the first half. But I didn't even realise he was on the pitch. I don't think in the 20 minutes I saw at the end of the first half. Let
me ask you something else, because Brad raised something, and it actually reminds me of something I read on Twitter. Brad was talking about the squad and what's our best 11 and what have you, and I'd say I think if the four of us wrote down our best Spurs first 11, we would be struggling to agree on more than maybe 4 or 5 positions. But I read something else on Twitter. This is what I want your opinion of. You go back to Pochettino's team of 2000 and what year did we get to? The 2017. We were challenging for the title. 2016, 2017, 2018. That period. Lloris, Walker, Rose, Vertonghen, the other bloke whose name I've forgotten. Alderweireld, Ericsson, Dele, Son, Kane, Dembele. Who in our squad would get near that team? That's the question I got for you, Kev, to start. Who in our team now would get near, in our squad, would get near that team?
Okay. Vicario. I think Van der Ven, not Romero, would be close there. Solanke would be on the bench in that one. Sonny's obviously still there, isn't he? But I mean, you're struggling, I think, to fit them into that team. Especially, when you doggy first came, you were thinking, oh, hold on, we suddenly got someone who's a bit more like Rose. But he's obviously gone off the ball quite a bit, in that respect. But yeah, well, Kulu, I suppose you could say when he's back on song would be sort of pushing in there as well.
Adrian, I mean therein lies the problem. I mean, Brad talks about a title.
Well, even Poch. I mean, Ferns used to get nervous when he used to rotate his fullbacks when he would rest Walker and before Walker left in 2017 and Rose. But to me, Romero would walk into that team. VDV would get a chance. Vicario would get a chance. Like you say, Decky would get a chance, and obviously Son. So that's 5. About 5. Half of them would have the capabilities of getting into that squad. We've lost Ian, so we'll carry on. Brad, how many do you think we're getting?
Well, I think you have to. At the moment, not many of them, but what of that team we've got out there at the moment potentially could make that team? And if you go back, you look at the Vicario and Lloris, I think that's, I agree with that. Alderweireld and Vertonghen, you've got Romero and Van der Ven. They could become like those two. I mean, Walker and Rose at the time were like the best fullbacks in Europe, probably. I think Spence could potentially become like Kyle Walker. I'm not so sure about Udogie as being like Rose. In the midfield, you've got someone like Bergwijn potentially could become, that sort of number 6. I think we had Wanyama, didn't we? Wanyama and Dembele were like the pivot. You could argue that so let's take Ange's tactics away and just look at the tactics that Poch used. You could argue that Bergwijn and Gray could potentially become the pivot of Wanyama and Dembele. Obviously, Son is still there. I don't think Solanke will ever become like Harry Kane, but then I don't think any player at Tottenham, probably not in our lifetime, will become like Harry Kane. So I don't think you can even, replace Harry Kane in that respect. Dele Alli scored the goals. I don't.
Madison for Ericsson.
On his day, when he's playing how he can play, possibly, but no, I think Ericsson was one of the best during that time. I've always said the 2017 season, and I've watched Spurs live since 1968. That 2017 season, the last season at White Hart Lane, ironically, was probably the best Tottenham team I've ever seen. And it's such a crime against football that we never won anything with that.
All right, one question before we go back to Ian and Kev. But Poch had a few seasons to build that team, didn't he? And we are a work in progress at the moment, aren't we? We are.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, and that's, I don't think calling for the manager's head is the right thing at the moment. Okay, so, but there'll be plenty of people saying we need someone different in, someone who's going to actually knows the league and how it works and all that sort of thing. But you've got to give guys a chance to build on this one, and it's and Poch really wasn't given that chance to rebuild, was he? He just wasn't given that chance to rebuild, and we've been trying to rebuild ever since that point without much success because we keep changing the manager every season and a half. So you've got to go through the pain, haven't you? Sometimes, lots of teams have been through the pain and are still going through the pain, including us. So we're not the only ones.
Kev, sorry, I'm going to stop you. My internet's a bit unstable. It might be because I'm here in Spain and it does do that occasionally. But I'm going to log out and log back in. So, Adrian, if you want to,
Carol.
I'll be back in a couple of minutes. So, talk amongst yourselves, everybody. Adrian,
we will
bloody Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah. So, to me, we're just by talking about how many players would get into the old Poch side, we're a work in progress. And I think fans need to realise it's a sad reality. It's not the reason I'm giving up my season ticket next season, though. I mean, that's for my angst with the club in different areas to most of the Levy-outers and Ange-outers. But Brad, so how long do you think this take? Do you think that Ange should be given another season? Well, let's put it in a perspective first, right? I don't see Ange going because by the time we play the Europa League games, there'll only be about a month of the season left.
Yeah.
If the club were looking to change him, they should be looking then because then the month goes. So he's not going this season. Let's be realistic. He's not, is he?
No, he's not going this season. And I don't think he should be because, you've got to completely rearrange everything. I mean, everyone, we got rid of Mourinho just before a cup final. So I don't think he's going this season. If we win the Europa League, which I'm not saying we're going to, but if we were to win the Europa League, then you probably would keep him. I still do worry, as I said earlier, about whether his system is good enough for the Premiership and the amount of decent teams that we have in the Premiership. And I also do wonder if you had a manager at the club, let's say Angelotti, for example, would he be able to get a tune out of the players? Because we have got some decent players in this club. I don't think anyone can deny that. And players that are going to be there, if we can keep them, are going to be there for a long time. So I still, yeah. I mean, I think I said on Tuesday night, I've never wanted a manager to have as much success as I have since Pochettino. But at the end of the day, I can see the frailties. I can see the negative side of the football we play. As I said, in the Premier League is a different kettle of fish. There's many decent teams. You only have to look at this season to see who's up there. Who would have thought that Nottingham Forest would be up there? Who would have thought that Brighton would be up there? Bournemouth are up there. Fulham are up there. Who would have thought that? No one would have thought that. That shows you the caliber of Premier League football. And I'm just wondering whether the system that he plays probably maybe not working in Premier League because of that. But yeah, it's pointless sacking him now. At the end of the season, I don't know. Let's see where we end up. We're not going to end up much higher in the league, but let's see if we win a Europa League, he would have achieved something that no manager has achieved since ironically Sergio Ramos. Not Sergio Ramos. Who was the guy? Who was the guy that managed us when we won the League Cup?
Wonder
Ramos. Yeah. And so he everyone shows all these statistics. Yeah. Always shows these statistics about age, that Postecoglou is one of the worst managers since Ramos. Yeah, Ramos is the last manager that won us a trophy. So make of that what you will.
Okay. Question for Kev before I hand back to him. Kev, do you think? I mean, I think some fans out there, a section of fan base, are suffering from what I call perception deception, right? Whereas, they think that Angie's playing this high line system with inverted fullbacks, and I haven't seen our back four parked on the high line virtually all season. Have you? What's your take on the so-called system that Ange won't change and is too stubborn?
Well, we're not playing. When we against Bournemouth were the high liners. What we don't tend to do, when considering we have been playing a high line and we know what people do to us, is why we don't expose the high line of other teams. That frustrates me, in that we never play the balls into the space over the back for our speedy wingers to run onto. So, but no, I don't think we've been playing a particularly high line of late. Maybe at the start of the season we were, but of late, no, we haven't really been playing high line. Everyone pushes their back line onto the halfway line when they're pushing up. Everyone does it. So it's not a unique system in that way. What's meant to be unique is how quickly we play out. And we did it a couple of times in the game, the second half of this one. The one touch sort of finally getting people free and getting forwards. But no, I wouldn't say we've been playing a high line and being caught out by being playing a high line. We're caught out by individual mistakes. And Odegaard, for instance, losing the ball in the middle of his own half today for the first goal, that sort of thing. But I think I always get a bit lost by systems, I must admit. What are we playing? What aren't we playing? It's very hard when you're sitting in the south or standing in the south stand, as I do, to actually see what the formation is sometimes.
And I'll tell you another thing. Ask the critics to explain the system, right? And they'll go.
But Adrian, I've said this, as I say, a fair number of people in the chat will know this, and you'll know this because I harp on about it too often. But when I saw Ange's Celtic side, they played with flair, they played with invention, they played with pace, they played with power. The ball went forward quickly. It went wide even more quickly. The ball was hammered into the box low early for forwards running in. We've seen that occasionally. We have seen that occasionally, but it's fleeting. It's here and there, and more often. I mean, Johnny Hammy's been on this show, and I know it's not an original comment, but we play a lot of horseshoe football, A Catholic football, it can be called as well, a cross here and a cross there. The ball just goes from side to side. It's St. Paddy's Day tomorrow as well, isn't it?
It is.
The ball goes across, and it doesn't go. And I'm like, what are the players trying to do? Are they not implementing the strategy that Ange has? Has Ange got basically, the rabbit in the headlight, the headlights or whatever? I just don't see it. I just don't know what we're trying to do. Brad, do you want to pick up?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that, Ian. I'd like to see the amount. I'd like to see the goals we've conceded this season, and see how many are down to Ange ball and the high line, and how many, as Kev was just saying, are down to just mistakes. Today, the first goal we conceded was a mistake. It wasn't anything to do with tactics. But I think half the time, I don't think our team seems to play Ange ball. And it's now the counter argument to that is, well, if they're not playing Ange ball how he wants to play it, well, then that it's down to the manager. So I get that. And as someone earlier in the comments said, the statistics, we've lost 15 games this season. That's not good. So it's one of those conundrums, I think, in that everyone moans about his tactics, but how many goals have we conceded because of the tactics? And then how many times have we actually played the way he wants us to play? Because the away game against AZ was a great example of that. We were like on a Sunday morning stroll. And I'm watching that thinking, this is not how Ange wants to play football. And yet we're doing that. So I don't know. It's a massive conundrum. I think that the dressing room, he's got the dressing room still, but you must, I'm honest to admit, if they're not playing how he wants them to play, well, then that's down to him, I guess. But it's a conundrum. It's up there with quantum mechanics, I think.
David, I know you're a regular on this show and really grateful for your comments. Let me put that question you put back to you. Is the problem the fans? I mean, is it not the manager? Is it not the players? Is it the fact that we got rid of Nuno, probably got rid of George Graham going back a bit? That was Levy's first mistake in my view. Got rid of George Graham, who wasn't doing anything wrong. Brought in Glenn Hoddle, who didn't achieve anything, and it's been a catalogue of errors since then. But as I say, there's the question: Are we actually the problem? And is social media as much our problem as it is for any club? So, David, you come back on me on. You're welcome to come back on me on that. Adrian, you want to come in?
Yeah, no, it isn't. It isn't the fans. No, it isn't the fans. I mean, the fans don't buy the players, do they? I mean, their problems stem back to when Poch wasn't back for 518 days in the transfer window. And since then, prior to Ange coming in, we brought in 29 players before Ange. This is before Ange's players at a cost of like 685 million quid or something. Since Ange come in, we spent 1.2 billion on players, right? But the recruitment in the past has been crap. And since Poch left, with the aging squad that had given up, we needed major surgery. And we're still recovering from that. I mean, we have failed much better in the transfer market recently. But we've got players who are evolving, youngsters that have been brought into a young team anyway. So if you've got no patience at all, which the way things are in the world today, the way fast pace of life, then like fans get very impatient and very critical. A player comes on his 2 cameos like Decky did when he first come, 2 20-minute cameos. He's useless, he's slow, he's rubbish. And then when he makes his full debut, Son squares the ball from away to Man City and he slots the ball in the net. I mean, what do you expect from such a young team? I mean, I want them to do as well. Win every game. Don't get me wrong. And I've critiqued Ange and his selections and substitutions during this season, and I've praised him when I believed he's got it right. But I didn't expect us to go out and break any records this season. And even now, we're still at least 4 or 5 players short, in my opinion. We need a creative midfielder, we need a number 9, we need a winger, and we definitely need a left back and someone to play alongside whoever's going to be a number 6 out of Bergvall, Gray, or whatever, and bring one in. So to me, I still think we need 5 players because the change today didn't do us any good at all. They're not bad players, but they're just like Basuma needs to go, and like just as a start, Richarlison needs to go, Werner needs to go, they need to go, and you need to replace them. That's only 3, right? So, I mean, we know also that Forster will go as well, 4, and then it's just a question whether Ange fancies Bentancur or not. Seems to, because he gives him enough opportunities. So he obviously likes the player. You can tell the players he's liked by those that have had game time when they're fit. So, I expect 4 incomings in the summer, or 3, and academy players to be promoted. I want to see Donnelly, I want to see Mikey Moore, I want to see Lancashire and Scarlett as full members of that 25-man squad.
Let me, before I bring other people in, there's actually a bit of a chat I need to catch up on. First of all, big supporter of our channel, as I hope we are of his.
Big up, Jose.
Good evening, Jose. I hope you're well, or at least as well as can be. A couple of people saying hi to Jose. For those of you that are in I think it's in the Spurs Talk Show chat, I saw that Blaine's put up a link where apparently Ange had another altercation with a fan after the game, which is not a good look. And apparently Tell had to come in and mediate. You'll be able to see that if you go onto your phones, onto the chat. I'm getting an echo from somewhere, by the way. I'm not sure where. To me, from a managerial, not necessarily a football managerial point of view, but from a managerial point of view, this is someone who's genuinely lost or at least losing the plot. David, this goes back to my question, are we the problem? No, the problem, it's not the fan, it's Levy's iron grip over the final say of purchases of players. It's been that way since Levy's been in charge, but it's the fans' fault for destroying good coaches. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a good look. Kev, let's bring you back. Not a good look what's going on at the club, no matter how we dress it up, from the boardroom to the players, the fans. It's just the whole thing seems toxic to me at the moment.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what the board do. If someone's going to find fault with what they're doing. I mean, even the season ticket announcement, good news, but tempered good news with all the other bits and pieces in it, just to piss off most of the fan base again. So Levy doesn't help himself, and the PR is terrible. Ridiculously bad. I mean, it really is. They don't read. They don't seem to be able to read the situation at all with some of the stuff they put out, and that creates a bad, toxic atmosphere amongst the fans, who are then just going to criticise everything that's coming forward. And yeah, we've had some bad times with coaches. I mean, Nuno got really badly. I mean, won manager of the month, didn't he? And then got it's been so topsy turvy, really. Too many managers in and out over the past 5 years, and you can only really blame that on Levy. That's all the
Our away fans are fantastic, and it's not the fans that destroy the coaches, David. It's bad results that destroy the coaches, right? It's not the fans, right? But our away fans are fantastic, and I used to go regularly to away games in my youth, and the passion there, and you've got a journey home after a defeat and things like that. You are going to vent your spleen. You're very emotional at the end of a game if the result hasn't gone your way, and I get the fans' frustration. I get it. I've seen it so many times and experienced it so many times myself. So, and it's worse when you're at the away game. It's bad enough being at home ground and losing as well, but it's worse at an away game, especially if you travelled miles to a game, you know. So all right, Fulham's close, but if you go to Newcastle and you lose, you know, you've got to come all that way home, you know. You're not happy. So I get the angst. I get it.
I can tell you that, I mean, I only had 2.5 hours to go. But that, I've got an echo now, so I'm going to have to log out again. But I was going to say that 2.5 hour drive when we got beat 5-1 at Newcastle in 2016.
Yeah, Coach Johnny.
I can tell you that was the longest 2.5 hour drive.
Yeah.
Got into the car, and there's Paul Merson hosted 606 and saying, and Spurs finished third in a 2-horse race. And it was, I know we're not allowed to swear, but I think the second word was off, and then the radio went off. And me and my daughter, it's the first time I'd managed to take her to a Spurs game. We managed to get tickets together. I don't think we said a word in 2.5 hours. I mean, it was really dreadful. So you're right. I mean, you know, coming back from an away defeat is always much worse than that. You know, you've got to walk or 20 minutes in the car to North London or whatever it was, you know.
When you take the likes of Chris Cowling, who goes to every game home and away England and all that, and on top of that, he's had to suffer the home defeats as well. So fair play to Chris if you watch us, Chris.
Is it me? Is that some of that? So
Adrian's frozen. Oh, no, he's back again.
It's all fine.
I just stopped to fall back to you, but obviously I caught you off guard.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be too depressing. I think we've got to find some positives. But I mean, I'm going to talk about the manager situation. We've got to. People are going to want to have a view on this. I thought Tell did pretty well when he played today. I thought he looked more confident. I thought, you know, with his trying to move the ball, with his speed, I started to get a feeling for the player that they think they've bought, or at least loaned. Brad?
Yeah, I unfortunately my stream I missed the first 20 minutes, so I saw the last 20 minutes. I think, and apparently in the first 20 minutes he had an amazing run down the wing, which I obviously didn't see. But yeah, I think he's got a bit of skill there. I still don't know, to be honest. I don't know. I haven't really seen enough of him. I can't really comment on him. I didn't see him do a lot today, but I know from what I have seen, he has got a bit of skill there. And this is a guy that's come into a new team, played 2 or 3 games, whatever it is. So you got to give him a chance. I remember everyone having a go at Kulusevski when he first joined, saying he was too slow. And yet, you know, he's probably...
He had a nice shot today, Pat, didn't he? He had a good curling shot, but let's be fair, we're not buying him on what we've seen. Let's be fair about
that was a good shot, Adrian. That was a good shot. And I want to see more of that. Maybe he needs a bit more confidence to do that. I don't know. But, my honest opinion on Tell is I haven't seen enough of him to form an opinion. But I wasn't surprised when he got substituted at half-time. Or ironically, the guy that did replace him, Odeberg, lost the ball that created the first goal for Fulham.
Yeah.
So make of that what you will. One thing we haven't talked about today or tonight is that Burwell should have had a penalty. He should have had a penalty. And that was at 1-0. So that makes the game, if we scored a penalty, that makes it 1-1. So this is how football. This is the decisions that change football games. I will watch Ref Watch tomorrow on Sky Sports and see what Dermot Gallagher has to say about it. But yeah, it looked like it when they kept playing it back. It looked like a penalty, but they didn't give it. VAR didn't give it, so I don't know.
I mean, I thought replay, maybe, but I don't think it was one of those. Such a clear and obvious error that
this is a problem. Yeah, this is a problem, isn't it? Yeah.
But we're dealing with opinions. It's why VAR is never going to be what people want it to be. It's opinions. Kev, do you have a view on it?
Yeah, I mean, on the stream I was watching, I think, or they said that the reason they didn't give it was because the defender got his leg in front of Bergwall and Bergwall kicked him. That was after Bergwall towed the ball away, obviously, as well. But that's what Jamie Vardy does for every flipping penalty he gets.
Yeah.
And it's if it had been Vardy or anyone else that got on, they would have got that penalty, I think.
Well, Salah would have got it, definitely.
Yeah. So it's one of those where we can say the refs are conspiring against us, like every other team says as well. But until I was much the same as Brad, I didn't see the first 20 minutes of the game. But then he put a couple of decent balls across, and he looked a little bit more confident than he had been. But he still, was getting a bit bundled off the ball as well. So, but he's young, isn't he? So we've got to give him a bit of a chance. Coming through. I mean, all the youngsters have taken their time to find their feet this season. And
still 60 odd of you in the chat. Sorry, Kev, I thought you'd finished.
That's right.
Yeah, it's still 60 odd of you in the chat. Fantastic. If you haven't, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. It helps us grow enormously. And if you're there watching, please say hi. I'd like to know who you are. Sessegnon comes on. His first touch is to bundle Davis off the ball. His second touch brings the ball under control. And his third curls the ball beyond Vicario into the net to wrap the game up. Adrian, you really couldn't make that up, could you?
No, it seems to me that throughout this season we're punished for every error we make. That shouldn't happen. Davis should deal with that situation. So it happened. 1-0 down. The game was gone. But, it shouldn't happen. Like the Bergvall-Odegaard incidents against Alkmaar, that shouldn't have happened. We had them cup games against Man United. We're cruising, and then Vicario at the back, we give 2 slippy goals away. And like Brad's alluded to earlier, and Kev, the amount of games when we've had plenty of defenders in the box, which we didn't have then, to actually defend goals we've conceded. It's been ridiculous this season. It's not been because of the high line. So we've made far too many defensive errors, and yet we really rate our back four, don't we? Which is amazing. When it's our back four, out of 5 of those players, Porro, when he's on song defensively, of course, and then you've got Spence, Udogie, who's been very poor this season, come back for injuries, never really discovered his form. I'm sure he will. Right, but again, you're waiting again for a player, and then you got Vidi and Romero getting their match fitness and sharpness back because you don't get that on a training field. So, too many mistakes this season. It's over. The league season's over, as we know, but we need to get a bit of momentum going before these Europa League ties come up, so as the players can go into that. And I think that'll be on Angie's mind as well. I don't think it'd be picking teams like this. The match before, I've got all the matches up here somewhere. I'll bring them up later.
Chelsea, I think, next.
Yeah, no one expects us to get a point at Chelsea or a point away at Liverpool, do they? But then we got Southampton at home,
Chelsea, Southampton.
And then the pitchforks will be out, yeah? Something like that. That's the 2nd of April. Then, say, Southampton home Thursday and then Frankfurt. So, the Southampton at home game, you go strong, hope for a cricket score before we're at home again to Frankfurt, and then
so we haven't got a game for 17 days.
Right.
This is the thing, though, isn't it, Adrian? Southampton, the team that we allowed today, should beat Southampton at home.
It should beat Fulham away as well.
Yeah. So I don't see, if you're looking at 10th of April, Frankfurt at home, then I'm personally resting players against Southampton. Because we should, any team we put out, we should beat Southampton. They've been awful this season.
Well, we'll see what players come back from international duty. Fit, right, and none of them get injured. And then we'll see. I mean, England. I'm not interested in England. But we got Latvia and someone else so. I'm to be honest, I'm such a selfish, biased Spurs fan now that I don't want our players going away on international duty, any of them, right? Because I want to keep them so they don't get injured, But Ange and the coaches will have loads of time to work the players that stay behind.
Okay, right. We are now, and the people in the chat, we are the board of directors of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. We've just lost again. Andrew's lost 20 games in the last 12 months, 15 losses in the last 29. Can Ange seriously survive? We're going to lose over 20 games this season, possibly, league games. You've now got a decision to make, and as I say, mature reflection now, not the usual social media vitriol and what have you. You've got a serious decision to make, because I'm asking you for your opinion. Where do we go as a club from here? Do you take the view we're here to the end of the season, we can't get relegated because thankfully there's 3 far worse clubs than us, so we can't get relegated, but we're still in this Europa League, we're down to the last 8. Frankfurt's winnable, but certainly not easy. If I can get to win that trophy, one, it's a monkey off my back and our back as a board of directors. So if we win that trophy, we get that monkey off the back. Plus, we qualify for next year's Champions League. So there is a lot riding on it for us.
There's an immense amount riding on it. If we don't qualify for European, that affects our transfer funding and where we go in the transfer window.
Well, okay. Point taken. So do I say I'm going to stick with Ange because he's been the manager all season? Or do I say, realistically, I have no confidence that given this manager's record, he is likely to win the Europa League. And if he doesn't win the Europa League, he won't be here next season. So I'm going to take him out and I'm going to replace him. And if I'm going to replace him, who am I going to replace him with? As I say, if those of you who are in the chat, please feel free to put your comments in, because, as I say, we're not looking for hyperbole, we're not looking for vitriol, we're looking for some sensible decision making. Put yourself in the position of Daniel Levy or a member of the board. You've got a decision to make, a proper decision. Kev, let's start with you.
Well, first of all, I'm opening my bottle of Chateau Neuf de Pat as a member of the board and pouring myself a big glass. I think my feelings are we are definitely sticking with Ange to the end of the season. Then you can take a deep breath and see what's actually happened by the end of the season, to see whether there's, one presumes, behind the scenes we're maybe tapping up some managers, just to see whether or not there's interest. If we haven't won the Europa, we're not going to get anyone that's anyone thinks is any good anyway, because they're either all, but they're being Europa, Champions League, Europa League, whatever. So who's going to come to little old Spurs at this point in our history? Because we're not in Europe, we're swanning around in the bottom half of the league. So I would be sticking with Mr. Postecoglou for next season, or at least for the first third of next season, to see how that goes. He's building his team out of his squad because he's been bringing in the players. Well, some of them were already there when he came in. So, I think we'll be sticking with him. It might be he walks. If he doesn't win this trophy that he always wins in his second season, and the vitriol is coming from left, right, and centre towards him, he might even walk. That please Mr. Levy, because he wouldn't have to pay him anything. But I'm sticking with him.
Brad, I'm going around the table now. I am now the chairman of the board, and I'm inviting opinions.
Well,
yeah. I mean, if he's not staying to the end of the season, he goes tomorrow.
How long have I been a board member? 20 years?
You've been a board member, Donna, since I can remember.
Right. Well, as a board member, we've won one trophy since I've been a board member in 20 years, so I resign. No, seriously.
Planning that life.
Seriously.
You've been on the board for the last 6 months.
Seriously, I think look. I've been critical of the board and Daniel Levy, but it's a situation at the end of the season. As I said, my knowledge of football is that I'm not so sure Angie's system will work in the Premier League. And that stat there, 15 losses in 29, that's one loss every 2 games. That is not good enough. I'm sorry. I know a lot of games have been lost by the 1 goal. And this is where the conundrum comes in. So my sort of gut reaction is, well, on that basis, whether we win the Europa League or not, then you have to look at getting another manager. But then you think, well, who's out there? We've tried all the managers that win things, didn't work. Then you sort of think, well, okay, if we've lost all these games by a goal, then that suggests to me that we're maybe 3 or 4 great players short. So do you say, okay, we'll go and buy those players and you still got your job? It's a really, really complex decision. It's my gut instinct tells me that if we don't win the Europa League, Ange will be gone at the end of this season. But I really don't know who they bring in. Everyone goes on about the Bournemouth manager or whatever. Yeah, he's at Bournemouth. They're doing well, but he's got nothing to lose at Bournemouth. If you're a Bournemouth supporter, you're not expecting to get into Europe, win cups, and win Premier Leagues. As Tottenham fans, no matter what our recent history has been, that's what you want to do. You expect Tottenham Hotspur to be competing for the Premier League and all the cups and everything. But with Bournemouth or Brighton, when they had whoever it was, you're not expecting that. So there's not as much pressure as there is when you become the manager of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. So it's a difficult thing. Who do we get in? I honestly don't know. I really don't know. I think we've got some players there that if we can hang on to them, we could potentially be a really good team. But we've got to, and this is where Daniel Levy gets my criticism. We haven't, when we've had that opportunity to go and push the boat out and put a little bit of money into it, we haven't done it. And Odeberg, I've said this many, 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 many times, Odeberg, a decent player, and he could well become a brilliant player. No one had ever heard of him when we signed him.
No.
We're looking at Gomez, who's done well for England, the little guy, but he's available on free. And I've said this many, many times. The great clubs, the clubs that are winning mentality, don't do that. They don't look for the bargains. They see a player they want to get and they pay the money for them. And we must have the money. I don't see how we haven't got the money. The income that we're getting from this stadium. Why don't we go out and buy these players? Why don't we pay the wages? We've seen the stats. 42% or whatever it was of our income is spent on players' wages. And as much as the lefty socialist I am, who doesn't feel sorry because a player only earns $100,000 a week, the poor guy. Unfortunately, it looks like on stats you have to pay amazing wages to win things, and that's what these clubs have done. So we've got to change our attitude there. Now, whether that's Levy and Ely, I don't know. Whether it's another owners that come in, I don't know. So it's a really, really difficult decision. And I honestly, it's I keep saying this word, conundrum, but it is. We're in this sort of position where we could be so good. The potential of this club is amazing. I don't mind all the money going. I don't mind all the concerts. I don't mind all the go-karting and the whatever it might be and the boxing. If it's all income, great. But that income should be make the football team the top of the pyramid. At the moment, I don't think the football team is the top of the pyramid with Enoch's philosophy.
Adrian?
My perspective is that if you bring a new manager in, if Ange goes out Europa League, we've got no Europa football. Is the squad capable of getting top 4? At present, no, it is. It isn't. It's still evolving. It's not. Are players going to want to come to this club, whether you pay them wages or not, if you're not in Europe? Best players aren't coming, right? So this situation should improve because younger players have evolved and hit form. They will be better for it next season. I don't see us getting top 4 with the squad we got. We still need to bring in another 4 or 5 players just to replace the good ones and be able to rotate with quality, basically. And I want a blend of youngsters brought with that as well. And I just don't see that at present, no matter who comes in. Whoever you pick in, is he going to get a better tune out of this squad? Well, yeah, he will, because like I've just said, the younger players have evolved and they'll be better for it. But getting a better tune is one thing and finishing a European place is another. And other teams will spend and they'll bring in players, especially the ones that are already in Europe. So this isn't easy for whoever comes in. So, and I don't see us attracting a top-class manager because top-class managers want to be at clubs that are playing in Europe. And again, like the squad needs improving. So I don't. If you are not going to sack Ange if we go out of Europe because there's only a month to the season's end. So you stick with him. It just gives the board more time, gives us the board members, right, more time to look for somewhere else, right? So it's, I'm confident that this team will evolve well, but it's just time and waiting again, which fans are frustrated with all this waiting. They're frustrated with projects, and they want instant success. Well, we may win the Europa League and they may get their wish, but instant success next season, it's always harder as each season goes by and the bar gets raised by slight increments. It just gets harder and harder. And like, I'm always positive about us, but I'm realistic and practical as well. And I just, at present, without an influx of at least 3 quality players, we'd have to be extremely lucky to walk away with a cup next season.
Let me put this back to you. The problem isn't even transfer fees, because actually there are decent players available on, coming to the end of their contracts, either on a free or with a year to go on a cheap deal. The reality is we can't get the best players, not because of Europe, not because of transfer fees, but we're paying peanuts for wages. When you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Yeah, wages are a point. I don't think they're the be-all and end-all of the situation.
Thanks, Graham. Sorry, I just interrupt you, Adrian. Just always a pleasure having you here, Graham. I know you're a big supporter.
Cheers, Graham. Big up, mate.
Thank you very much. Always appreciate it. Sorry, on you go, Adrian.
I think it's that if you think there's lots of players on top money have gone to clubs and been crap, right? So it's just getting the recruitment right, and then wages and bonuses. They're on good bonuses at Spurs, apparently, even if not on wages. Then that's secondary. Get the profile of the players you want in certain positions right, go out for them, and then see. And they don't have to be a 60 million player like a Ndombele or a Lo Celso or a Davinson Sanchez or a Charleston for 60 million. We paid that money, not necessarily the wages. We could have paid 40 million for those players and give them a lot more in wages. You can do it that way. So it's just getting the recruitment right. I mean, and we've failed much better in the transfer market recently, but we're still short. We're still short, really, to have a squad, not an 11. You want 18 players. Even Pep hasn't got 25 top quality players, but you want about 18, right? Out of that 25. Then you can have 7 youngsters, So, or to make a pathway for the youngsters as well. So I get the wages angle and I agree with it, but I also think, is it really? You could get player less money who you've profiled as good and then pay them top wages. So we can pay the wages if we want to, but and then.
All right, Kev, let me put it to you then. You're the sporting director of Man City, Liverpool, Bayern, Real, any one of the top European clubs, and you're looking at 18, 19-year-olds like Bergvall and Gray. You could just blow Tottenham out the water with wages, can't you? There's nothing we can do to keep them.
Well, yeah, my wage packet would be good if I was sporting director of all of those as well. But recently players have been coming to us instead of going to them. but probably because they see, okay, well, I might get in the team here, whereas if I go to Barcelona, Bayern, whatever, I'm struggling, to probably maybe even get on the bench. But I suppose the one advantage you've got is we've shown this year that, the youngsters are getting in the team, even if there has been a lot of injuries. If they get in the team and they're performing well, they're staying there. So Bergvall, Gray, for instance, are staying there, and and Spence to a degree, he's not quite as young. So yes, could burst out of the water with wages, but then Saudi can blow everyone out of the water with wages, and everyone could go to Saudi. There was talk about, I can't remember who it was now, say, being offered God knows how much, does 2 years at Saudi, and then comes back and he's already set. Doesn't matter what he does after that.
Mm.
Well, this is where I get annoyed at footballers, because footballers are saying, well, I want to go to Saudi so I can get my financial future sorted out. I'm sorry, if you're earning 50 grand a week, which at the moment is quite a low wage for a footballer, if you're earning 50 grand a week and you can't sort your finances out, there's something very, very wrong with you. I would dream of, I would sit on the bench forever on 50 grand a week, no problems.
So is the consensus then that Ange will be there at the beginning of April to see us through to the end of the season, Brad?
Yeah, I think he will be. Now, where
Kevin?
he's there at the end of the season, I don't know, but I don't think they're going to sack him before the end of the season.
Yep, I think he'll be there.
Yeah, and you've got to look at it. If I'm Daniel Levy, I'm thinking I ain't sacking him now because all the pressure's on me and all the arrows point on me. If I sack him, if we go out the Europa League over 2 legs and I sack him, I'm going to take unnecessary flack. I can look for a manager in a new season when there's no fans to protest, right? I can do my own thing again and hide behind the sofa. You know what I mean? So, no.
Yeah.
I don't see it. Just logically, I don't see it. But I could be wrong, of course. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, sorry. I got a button. Football career is only 10 years. I'm sorry. I would love to work for just 10 years on 50 grand a week. Believe me.
Yeah.
Believe me.
That's 25 million in wages, I think, if I've done the numbers right.
You wouldn't live long, Brad. You'd drink yourself to death.
But that's definitely the best username on the internet right now.
Yeah, it's a great name.
Yeah, very good.
I don't know who you are, male, female, where in the world you are, but it's a great username.
It is a good name, yeah.
I suspect you're somewhere in a fair way east of where we are because of the time we come on. So I suspect it's early in your morning when you come on. But, anyway, how would you pay for your supercars, mansions, and women? Though? Have you not seen how many albums that Brad has sold over the last? Yeah.
I don't have to pay for women; they just come to me.
Yeah.
quick plug for the channel. We've got 73 in here, 61 on XCOM watching us. Now I don't know if that's a combined to the 73. I don't know.
You know what, folk off. You know what? I my Facebook page is always telling me that there are women 50 yards away that want sex. So what can I say?
I'm in Florida. Jesus. Yeah. Can we all agree?
It sounded like George Best, Brad. Spent all your money and gave up winning wine and song for a week, and it was the worst week of your life. Yeah.
Apparently, you need that 50 grand a week though to buy a dozen eggs in Florida these days. Yeah, but if you put
I've got 4 hens are laying 4 eggs a day at the moment. I can export them.
Yeah, don't tell the Americans.
Americans need their eggs, don't they? They need their eggs.
But the great.
And you didn't answer your question. Do you think Ange is staying?
I think if he's here on Tuesday night, he's staying. I'm not entirely convinced. No, I'm not convinced. But I keep thinking.
Let's make it easy for you. Do you think Levy will sack him on the eve of the Europa League final?
Well, we're not. No, I don't think we'll sack him on the eve of the Europa League final. And I'm not sure we really know what was behind that. I got a feeling that Mourinho had totally lost the dressing room, and that's why I think Levy took the chance. We won't win it under Mourinho because the players hate him. If I get new manager bounce, I only need it for one match and beat Manchester City.
Ian, I think my own opinion on that is that was when the Super League thing was happening, and he was getting a lot of pressure on him from the Super League. And by sacking Mourinho, that took the pressure off him from the Super League. That's my opinion on it.
It was odd timing.
It was.
I mean, it was seriously odd timing. The one thing, though, Adrian, just going back to your question, is if everything I read is correct, the players are backing Ange 100%, and I don't really understand why. I just don't get it.
I do. I get it. Let me explain my perception of that.
Mm-hmm.
You've got footballers at a club that are still in a cup competition. They want to win it. It's their only chance of silverware. They want to win it while they're in that cup competition. If that cup competition was 2 months back and we'd gone out, they may well have, given up. But not while they're in the competition. They can win silverware. They're gonna, and they want to play well in games as they get picked. The further we go through the rounds, and hopefully, if we get to the final, they want to be in the team. So, no, I get why they're backing Angel. They've all come out and said it. Vicario, Romero, even the younger players have come out and said it. They said they love him. They love the training and everything. I don't think they'd lie about that.
Going back to your question, I've only half answered. I think if Levy has got someone lined up, a top quality manager lined up that he thinks can win the trophy, he'll move Ange. But in the absence of that, I think he'll stick it. But
Inzaghi's the only one who's got a winning track record. But I don't know his style of football. I know he's won trophies. We always, every time we get a player that is a one-season wonder, a manager, everybody says, "Oh yeah, get him in." And plenty of them have failed in the following seasons. So, everyone was railing about our ex-coach McKenna at Ipswich. They're getting promoted and all that. All right, Ipswich haven't got the resources. When you come up, you need to spend about 200 million to stay up. But, and we've had it with other managers, that have been mentioned. And then you've got to look at the style of football. Do you want a Thomas Frank and his style of football? I mean, if we bring a new manager in, I want a tactical aware, astute manager who plays attractive football that believes in giving academy players a chance. Now, obviously, I'm in dreamland thinking that. I don't know if they exist. But
the irony here is that
Brad mentioned white noise. I don't get the noise over Irola. I mean, in fact, you look at his record over the last 6 games, it's just as bad as ours. He couldn't keep a 2-0 lead against
Eddie Howe's just won a trophy, so they ain't coming. They're in Europe next year.
David, I've heard this. In fact, I'll tell you what, it's Ian Lubin that said this, that Mourinho was sacked for one reason and one reason only. He wanted to rest players for the league game. I think we played, was it Southampton or something on the Wednesday before the Sunday final? And Levy wanted top 4, so they had a blazing row and Levy sacked him. I've heard that. I've heard that. To me, it doesn't sound logical, but I've heard that. And then, Ian, would you take Mancini tomorrow over until the end of the season? No.
What, Henry Mancini, the guy who does the music for Pink Panther?
Pink Panther, yeah.
Henry Mancini.
Terry Mancini.
Mourinho should have been sacked when we lost to Dynamo Zagreb and their manager was in prison.
Yeah.
I don't think any manager and will make any difference for this season. We just got to play better. We've got the 2 home games if we get through to the semi-final. My one worry in the Europa League is our away form. We don't seem to play away from home that well, and I think that playing the home leg in potentially both games could be a bit of a hindrance. But we've got to change our form. We ain't going to be winning the Europa League unless we start playing well in these away games. So,
well, I've got a question then on Ange, as we're talking about his tenure at the club. Do you think we are looking to bring players in a transfer window for Ange? Is that a sign of faith, or all of you, or do you think no, we're just bringing them in as per norm?
Can I answer David's point, and then you?
Of course you can. It's your show.
Yeah, there's another reason for that, David, as well. Is that when you're looking at, I mean, this is my field of work. When you're looking at unexpired parts of the contract, one of the things his lawyers would be arguing is you deprived me of the opportunity to win the League Cup, which would have given me a £250,000 bonus. So you start arguing, I would have won that, I want 250. The club says there was no chance, we'll give you nothing. And you end up working a percentage chance of winning the trophy. The idea about not having to pay a bonus for sacking him is legal nonsense. It's absolute legal nonsense. And yeah, if it cost him over 30 million, well, God alone knows. I don't know. That's why I struggle to. I want top four. I'm paying 30 million to get rid of you. None of it makes sense, but we don't know. Adrian, you take that back. You go back to your question and ask.
Yeah, it was just like the question was to you guys. Like, do you think? I mean, it looks like the profile of players we have been bringing in is one is young to sell on, as we've always done, and looking for one to suit Ange. So, do you think we aren't doing that? We're just bringing players in as we've normally done, and not bothered about whoever may replace Ange if they decide to replace him.
I think that the players we've been brought in whilst Ange has been in charge have been to suit Ange's system and to suit Ange's philosophy on the player. And to be fair, Eddie Howe, I can't remember, said more or less the same thing, that when they look to sign players, it's not only the ability, it's how that player as a person. And I think that's what we do under Ange. But it's not a new thing. We brought players in for Conte to suit his system. Pedro Porro was brought in because Conte played a wing-back system. And then suddenly Conte gets sacked and we got Pedro Porro playing at right back and making a real pig's ear of it. Suddenly we get Ange come in who plays a more attacking sort of fullback and Porro starts playing well. So I think it's something we've always done. I mean, you logically, you'd argue you get a footballer that's a good footballer and a good person that can play any system. But I don't think it happens that way. I think they do buy players because the manager, at the end of the day, the manager probably has the last word on whether that player signs for the club.
Yeah. I can't understand this club signing. People say, "Oh, he was a club signing." So I can't. No, surely you're signing for the manager you got at the time you sign the players, or he must have some input into it, because otherwise, what's the point? So I think you're always going to be looking to sign the player that fits with your manager at the time.
Yeah,
and they are all club signings anyway, aren't they? Well. Yeah.
I'm saying they're club signings with the manager having no input in them. No.
I mean, then you have the other thing, especially with the young players we've brought in that have done well, like Gray, Bergvall, Spence. What if a new manager comes in and doesn't play him? What does Levy say to him then? Because he moaned to Tim Sherwood about not playing Soudaldo when Sherwood gave Kane his debut, and we all know what happened from there, right? So what happens then? Does Levy stick his fucking nose in again, like on the football side of the club, which he's totally clueless about anyway, right?
I don't think Levy. He doesn't strike me as the sort of person that say you should be playing this player or playing that player. But I certainly think he has the final say on the money we spend on players. I think he's definitely involved in that. So and that's been my massive bugbear with him. Now, whether you like him or don't, Fernandes has been brilliant for Man United, and yet he was set to sign for Spurs, but we wouldn't pay the extra £5 million or whatever it was to sign him. And and that was the Eriksen replacement at the time.
And we have a director of football in Johan Lang, who, if you believe the rumours again, I haven't been able to substantiate this. Levy had to step in to get the deal done for Tell with Bayern Munich, who we've obviously got a good relationship with, right? Because Langer couldn't get it over the line. I mean, if that's the case, then he's got to go. You know.
But that's the other thing. You know, it's all very well saying you've had 16 managers in 24 years and one trophy. Well, how many sporting directors have we had in that
good
time?
Point. Very good point.
That's down to the board. That's down to the board as well. They're the ones that select them. You know, so.
I mean, the only one that Levy's really liked, is actually been Paratici, and his band's up in end of June, I think. So he's going to be kept on as a consultant. He may be brought back into the fold, but then they might not want to do that because Levy likes a sanitized stadium and doesn't like any background, sensitivity, does he? So, I mean,
It's a bit depressing. An hour and a half we've run. I think we're sort of starting to cover the same ground we've covered. Been a good lot of you. If you're in the chat there, I mean, my numbers are saying 77. I don't know.
And we got 62 on XCOM, Ian. If they're not part of this 72, there's 62 watching on XCOM.
Oh,
right.
Twitter.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Final comments, Bradley.
My final comment, and I'll be saying this for a fair bit now, is let's as Tottenham Hotspur supporters, let's forget about criticising the manager, because social media does that anyway. All the pundits out there do it, all the newspaper writers do it. He's our manager, whether you like him or not. He's our manager of our football club. Let's just support him. Let's support the club. Yeah, he might make mistakes. That's not a problem. But let's get behind this club for the rest of the season, because we haven't won a trophy in, well, everyone knows how many years. Newcastle won a trophy this season for the first time in 55 years domestically, and 55 years and 70 years domestically and 55 years of trophy. So maybe this season, this is the season where clubs that haven't won for a while win things. So Europa League, if we play at our best, we can beat Eintracht Frankfurt. We can beat probably Lazio. We can beat anyone on our day. So let's get behind the club. Let's forget about all this. Angie's a fraud, Angie and out, and let's just get behind the team and support them. And then we can have the conversation at the end of the season.
I'll ask you that question, and Brad, no doubt we'll have you on long before the end of the season. If we win the Europa League, has Ange earned the right to manage the club next season?
Well, I guess, it's a difficult one, because we remember with Juan de Ramos, and he was gone within 8 games the following season. So I would argue yes. For the simple reason that no matter what you think of Ange, I think he's put some things in places there that are good for the future. We've got some great young players coming through. Whether you say it's via him or default because of injuries, they're getting game time. We've got the basis of a decent team there, and I think he's done a lot of good stuff for this club. In much the same way, I think he could possibly be like Martin Jol was, a catalyst of the club. Martin Jol was the catalyst, and Pochettino finishing it off. Maybe Ange might be that for Tottenham Hotspur. Maybe winning the Europa League will just start things off. But I think if we win the Europa League, I think he's probably earned the right to stay.
Kev, final thoughts and the question: if Ange wins the Europa League?
If he wins the Europa League, I expect him to still be here next season. I probably expect him to still be here next season anyway, despite the fact that we'll have lost a record number of games and the rest of it. My final thought is, if you watched the League Cup final this afternoon and you saw the Newcastle fans, please, can every supporter who sits in the South Stand take a scarf with them and wave the bloody thing in the air? It really bugs me off. We sing song at the start of the game, and no one, apart from me, puts a scarf up in the air, waves a scarf, creates the atmosphere that everyone says we haven't got. Fans, you've got to do it. So that's my final thought. Fans, get behind the team.
Yeah. It looked amazing, didn't it? It looked absolutely amazing. The Newcastle fans today, absolutely amazing, and I'm so pleased that they won. I really am.
And there's me. I'm thinking when Kevin's saying that, I'm listening to that song. Feet up and down, wave your knickers. Anyway, do you remember that one? Do you remember that one? There's a cyber point for anybody who knows who sang that. Yeah, but yeah, if you can remember,
That's Screaming Lord Sutch.
Who sang that?
It wasn't Screaming Lord Sutch, was it?
No, we're reaching the end of the show, can't you?
You could say, yeah.
On a Sunday night, yeah.
Demo Pappy. Do you know what? I come on and I go on depressed. I come on depressed because we've lost again. And you know what? We have a chat. We have some good chat. There's a thank Yvonne, if you're still there. Thank you so much, because that's exactly what we try and do, is try and keep it sensible and have a level-headed, mature, rational discussion rather than some of the hyperbole that some of the other channels get up to.
I'm just going to say, actually,
there's David Clark. And, you know, so, Adrian, your final thoughts before.
I want to see. Obviously, I want to see a change. I mean, what I want to see towards the end of the season is growth and some momentum with that growth. I want to see youngsters given a chance. We should use these remaining games to give youngsters a chance. But I also wanted to see it's not so much Chelsea away, Southampton at home, to get a nice, comfortable win to take us in that thumb leg against Frankfurt. That's what I want to see. To give the fans a bit of belief, because it's like a win-loss, win-loss. I mean, prior to today's loss, we had 1-3, lost one of their last 4 league games or something, 1-3, drawn one and lost one or something, which wasn't bad form. But one loss just turns that all upside down, you know, and the fan base gets toxic. Yeah, so that's what I want to see. I'm not expecting great strokes between now and the end of the season. I want to see players shine, the young players shine. If it's Tell, if it's Odeberg, Mikey Moore gets more game time, you know, I want to see these players. I watched Mikey Moore play Friday, and he's the instigator of the first goal, scored the first goal, and like, I just want to see him I want to see some of these young players. That's my fear about bringing another manager in. My fear is the pathway won't be there for players to come in. I want Vuskovic brought into the squad at the end of this season. I think Ange would do that. He's shown it. I mean, what manager would give Brennan Johnson his debut away to Arsenal when we drew 2-2, right? What manager would do that? And then he throws Kinski into them semi-finals virtually when he brings him in. So they're bold decisions to make. They're brave decisions to make. And like, he does it. I mean, he threw me with his team today. I didn't expect that team. I'd have picked a different team to that. I think most of us would, you know. But yeah, I mean, we want to see progress, which can only be shown in growth. And even though it's like the positives are seeing players play well, then that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see.
Can I just say
what's happened with Mikey Moore? Sorry, Kev, just 1 minute. What's happened with Mikey Moore?
He scored. He scored Friday. I watched the game.
Why is he not playing in the first team?
Well, probably because if Ange's not playing him, he's got to need game time. You can't leave him on the bench and get like rusty. So he went back in. He didn't play the whole game. They took him off after about an hour. And then Jadon Williams scored a hat-trick. 20-year-old striker who looks a bit tasty, but that's at that level. But, you know, so, yeah, so I just think he wants to give him game time. You know, so that can be the only reason for it. He's not injured or nothing like that. So we'll see. But now Tell's come in. It's probably put him to further down. And look, he was 17 in August. Don't panic to get him thrown in the squad. People talked about Williams Barnett. And I said, because he had a good game. Oh, yeah, Williams smashing it. He's 16. Yeah, you know, I mean, like, come on. You know, these players, they're not going to leave the club. Oh, they'll leave the club. No, they won't. They've got contracts. And besides that, they know that time's on their side. If you want to leave the club at 16, well, then go and don't come back. Dylan Marcandy, when he was at the club, he never went out on a loan. Fantastic prospect. He looked at the time, was impatient, like some players are. Maybe they think the time should come sooner than the club does. His time didn't come sooner than the club thought. he ends up getting sold or goes to Blackburn. Unfortunately, does his cruise ship, which ain't his fault. I think he ended up Aberdeen, and I don't know if he's back at Blackburn now or whatever. But I wish him well. But some of these want to run before they can walk, and they've got time on their side. So yeah. So that's my sort of take on the youngsters and Mikey Moore and that. And I love the player. I really love that player, and I think he should be in that squad with Vuskovic definitely, and Donnelly next season as well.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for everybody in the chat. It's been superb. Brad, thank you very much as ever. Always a fabulous guest. Kevin, more than deputised for your son, and I'll message him later. But let's hope he gets well soon. Yep. And Adrian, as ever.
Shout out to the 81 people viewing us now as well. Fantastic. And those on next one.
Yeah, I should say, if you haven't, please like the channel, please subscribe. It does help us grow enormously. Thanks, Fokov. That's wonderful.
Great.
Thank you very much. Love the name, love your contribution. I'm not going to play out with any music tonight. I don't feel like Dreams of Desire or anything like that, or Arsenal get battered, because it's only Tottenham getting battered everywhere they go at the moment. So we'll I'll just end the stream, and guys, I'll see you in the back room. Take care, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Big up to you in the chat and all those viewers. Subscribe to the channel, please.